It's time to talk about the worst team in the SEC from last year, the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Let's give them a college football preview. I'll talk about the stars for the team, a few storylines, the losses and additions to this roster, as well as an X-Factor game that I believe might be must-win for the team, and then a record prediction at the end. Let's hop right into the stars of this team. At running back, Fluff Bothwell, coming in from South Alabama, an instant impact transfer as a true freshman, ran for 800 yards and 13 touchdowns. He will be the bell cow back for Mississippi State this upcoming season, and a much needed one to say the least. This offense was damn near atrocious last year. Now let's flip it defensively, because I'm going to get into my other star later into this video. Defensively, Isaac Smith, nickelback, led the team in tackles last year, 127 total tackles. He is a guy that is all over the field. Not the signal caller for this team, but probably the most important player for the defense. And then to pair with him in the secondary, Jerron Manning, a transfer from, I believe, Old Dominion. I could be wrong about that, but I do think that's where he's from. 5.5 tackles for loss, 3 interceptions. Once again, kind of like Isaac Smith, a gadget guy that can get into the backfield, play in coverage, hop routes. He's going to have to be one of the biggest players for this team, biggest impact players for this defense this upcoming season. The secondary is unbelievably important for Mississippi State. The front seven is not great, to say the least. Now, moving into the first storyline that I want to talk about, Mississippi State usually hits the floor at around 3-9, 4-8. That's like the typical floor for the worst SEC team. But last year, in my opinion, they hit rock bottom after a blowout loss at home to Toledo, 41-17. Now, in my opinion, that is inexcusable for any SEC team. If you're going to lose to a group of 5 team like that, at least let it be like Notre Dame, where they lost by a couple of points to NIU last season. Toledo going in and beating them that bad, I think that shocked probably 95% of the college football world. I actually had Mississippi State going 4-8 last year and being one of the worst teams in the SEC, but turns out I was wrong. They were even worse than I thought. I even said that this team was devoid of 4- and 5-star talent last season, and they definitely were. Honestly, they were borderlining 3-star talent, in my opinion. So that being said, I'm kind of dogging them right now, but I'm just trying to narrate how bad last season was and how desperate this Mississippi State fan base is to make improvements and not have the same losses that they did last year. Now, are they going to go 6-6 and make a bowl game? No. But can they make some improvements? Absolutely. So let's talk about the losses and additions to this roster. The losses side of things, they lose Stone Blanton, linebacker, goes to the 49ers. I believe an undrafted free agent. I also believe he was the signal caller for last season. He was second on the team in tackles, 124 totals. Then moving back to the offensive side of the football, Kevin Coleman, 900 yards, 6 touchdowns as a wide receiver last year, led the team in receiving yards. Massive loss, in my opinion, to the passing game. They don't really replace him either, but I'll get into that in just a moment. Moving back defensively, Bryce Pollock, in my opinion, the best corner on the roster last year. He gets bought out by Texas Tech, transfers there. 7 pass deflections from last season. Once again, best corner on the team. He will be duly missed. Now, the additions to this roster, I've already talked about a couple of them. Fluff Bothwell, of course, Jerron Manning. But the last guy that I want to talk about is Will Whitson, a defensive tackle from Coastal Carolina University. 9 tackles for loss last 2 seasons. He is going to have to be a guy that can make improvements for this front seven, especially with the loss from Stone Blanton. But Mississippi State's front seven last year was pretty bad, to say the least. And so could he be a bright spot? I definitely think so, and that's why I mentioned him here as a major addition to this roster. Now, talking about the last 2 storylines before I get into my X-Factor game and record prediction, starting with Blake Shapen. This is my second star player for the offense. Now, last season, they did start the year 1-3 under Shapen, but in my opinion, it wasn't necessarily his fault. He had 8 touchdowns and 1 interception as the starter. He gets injured, and he's pretty much done for the rest of the season. He comes back under Jeff Lebby. I think this guy is going to make major improvements to this offense. They looked cohesive and coherent last year, and with a guy like Fluff Bothwell in the backfield pairing with him, I think could be an offense that does a little bit better with him with him healthy. That's the big part of this. He's got to be healthy for Mississippi State's offense to improve, because they lose their other quarterback, Michael Van Buren, who started the last few games. They lose him to LSU. He's the backup now behind Garrett Nussmeier. Now, the last storyline that I want to talk about is Jeff Lebby. He needs an upset. 2-10 last year. The fan base is pretty much calling for his job. They're desperate here at Mississippi State. I think that the team not only needs to win 3 of their non-conference games, but if they can pull off an upset versus one of the other 9 opponents that they have, that's major momentum for Mississippi State heading into next year. Will Lebby still be the coach? I think it depends on whether or not they can get that 4th win. So now let's talk about the X Factor game for the Mississippi State Bulldogs. It's Arizona State. It's at home. This team is coming off of a playoff berth. They played Texas extremely competitively, but they lose the heart and soul of their team in Cam Scatterbo to the NFL. He's with the New York Giants now. I think this team is riding high, but Mississippi State last season, people forget, were extremely competitive against Arizona State on the road. I think ASU coming all the way to Mississippi State, it will be a much tougher environment for Kenny Dillingham and their squad to come in and get a victory. Now, can they? Absolutely. As a matter of fact, let's hop right into the record prediction. Starting the season with at Southern Miss. That is not a give-me game anymore. You lose to a team like Toledo, I'm not going to sit here and chalk up Southern Miss as an automatic W. I'll give Mississippi State the nod. I think that they can win that game, but will they is the real question. I think they will. That's a 1-0 start, but then Arizona State comes to town. This is going to be, in my opinion, the game that sets the tone for the rest of the season. Can they pull off an upset? In my opinion, as of right now, no. That is a win for Arizona State and a loss for the Bulldogs. Moving into the next couple of games, Alcorn State and Northern Illinois. Now, people talk about Northern Illinois as like the new upsetter of teams, the new group of 5 guy or team to watch out for. I don't think that that's the case this upcoming season. When you see these giant upset victories like App State versus Michigan way back in 2007, you don't see them repeat it the very next year. That's why I'm going to say that Mississippi State is more than capable of winning this game versus Northern Illinois. So starting the season 3-1, hopes are relatively high, especially if that game was competitive against Arizona State. But then the going gets tough. Tennessee, at Texas A&M, at Florida, Texas. Those games to me are all losses. Mississippi State is outclassed in both talent and continuity. I do not see them winning those games at all, especially A&M and Florida, as well as Texas. Those teams are college football playoff contenders. Now, Tennessee might be more competitive, but I can't see it right now, especially with what I saw from Mississippi State last year. So 4 straight losses now, 3-5, I believe, is Mississippi State heading into at Arkansas. Now, Sam Pittman could be on the outs here for the Razorbacks at this point in the season. So maybe a bunch of players are looking for the portal, but overall talent composition-wise, I love Talon Green and the rest of this offense. I think Arkansas can keep it rolling even without Sam Pittman potentially. That's going to be a game that I will still give the nod to Arkansas to. And then a brutal finish to the season. Georgia at home, at Missouri, and then Ole Miss at home as well. 3 straight losses. Missouri is a game where at the end of the year, Eli Drinkwitz could potentially be on the hot seat if they have a disappointing season. Mississippi State could pull off the upset there. And of course, I won't, absolutely throw a victory out in the Egg Bowl. It's the rivalry game that nobody expects a team like Mississippi State to compete in. Auburn did the same thing to Alabama last year. They did not win. I don't think Mississippi State could win, but is it possible within that game for them to pull it off? Absolutely. So my record prediction as it sits right now, 3-9. 4-8 with a victory over a Tennessee, an Arizona State, a Missouri, or even an Ole Miss. And I think Jeff Lebby's in the conversation for a momentum building program builder at Mississippi State. But a 3-9 finish and 0-9 in the SEC, and we could be talking about Jeff Lebby getting fired at the end of this year. We shall see. The Mississippi State fans are not the most patient or, in my opinion, sane, but that's just a little sneak diss here at the end of the video. I don't know what their expectations are holistically as a fan base, but I know a lot of people are expecting them to do much better than 3-9. I just can't see it, or I won't believe it until I see it. So with that being said, make sure that you hit the like button, you comment, and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. It means a lot, and we will see you next time.